Good morning, all of you. Let's get started with today's lecture. So today's lecture is lecture number 19, and we will go through the analysis and the design of a common source LNA with inductive degeneration. So in last class, let me just quickly refresh your memory. We did go through the uh, LNA, right, with where is that? Yeah, so we looked at the input impedance of this particular LNA, right? Let me just go there. Yeah. So we saw a common source state with a degenerative inductor. And first and foremost, we looked at the input impedance and we saw that we are able to synthesize a 50 ohm impedance. Okay? Without an explicit resistor, we are able to synthesize that. And we also saw that we will have an external inductor LG to tune out the reactance to get a real part. Now, towards the end of last class, I said that that's not the whole story. You have a pad capacitance here, and now that is going to change the impedance. And so I gave you these equations and I asked you to derive them. So please derive that and make sure. So the moral of the story is that the equivalent resistor is, modified by this factor CGS1 divided by CGS1 plus CPAD the whole square. Okay. So there is going to be a reduction in the R that you are going to see, okay, and we'll see why it is going to impact us. Okay. Now let's start off from there, and with the other topologies, one of the important things that we need to do is to see what is the noise figure of this LN, right? So that is what is going to be the important parameter for any LNA, right? So let us try to derive the noise figure. In order to do that, so let's draw the small signal equivalent circuit. Let's say this is your Vin, there is Rs. Let's say this is your LG gate inductor, the extra inductor that we are going to put at the gate to tune out the reactive component that you will get from this inductively degenerated LNA. Okay. Now next you have CGS. Let's say you have GM, VGS. Let's say this is VGS, right? And you have this inductor going to ground, LS. Okay. Now we are going to derive the noise figure of common source with inductive degen LN, right? So now we have to start talking about noise. Let's say the noise of the transistor is given as, let's say, IN squared bar. All right. Now, in order to derive this, let's just say IN1 is the noise current of the transistor M1, right? Now, in order to do this derivation, what we are going to do is we are going to find out what is the short circuit output current. All right. So, what is short circuit output current? Which means that we are going to ground this and we are going to find out what is this I out. Okay. Now, with this, we will be able to figure out what is the, we will be able to derive the noise figure. So, for each LNA topology, there is a certain way in which we can do, which simplifies the mathematical analysis. Right. Okay. Right. So, let us start deriving. Now, first and foremost, what is I out? I out is nothing but the sum of the current here and the current here. Okay. So, it can be written as GM VGS plus IN1. Right. Okay. Now, the voltage across the inductor VLS, right? The voltage across this inductor can be written as what? SLS, which is the impedance times the total current that is flowing. What is the total current flowing through the inductor? It has two branches, right? The current which is coming in like this and the current which is coming in like this, right? What is this current? This current is nothing but the input current. Since we know the voltage across this capacitor and the value of this capacitor, we can write this current to be as what? S times CGS into VGS, right? This is the current. And what is the current which is coming in here? The sum of these two currents, which is nothing but I out. Okay. All right. Now that we know this VLS, let's do a KVL in this loop. Okay. So what is that KVL? Vn is nothing but In times Rs plus S times Lg plus 1 by S times Cgs, right, plus VLS. Okay. Now we can write In as what? In can be written as S times Cgs into VGS. Okay. So substitute it here, and if you kind of combine the terms, what will you get? So let's say Vn can be written as S times Cgs VGS into Rs plus S times Lg, right, plus VGS. Okay, let's write everything in terms of VGS. So this is plus VGS plus S times Ls into I out plus S VGS CGS. Okay. So now this is the full equation, right? Now let us substitute for VGS from the previous equation. So here, from here, what can we write? VGS can be written as what? I out minus I in, or rather not I in, it is IN1, the noise current, divided by GM. Okay. So let us substitute VGS from, let's say, this is equation 1. Okay. Substituting VGS from equation 1, what will you get? Vin is given by this whole thing, right? You have I out times S times Ls plus you have Ls plus Lg into Cgs S squared plus 1 plus S times Rs Cgs divided by Gm into I out minus In1. Okay. So I'm just skipping to this step in order to save time, and obviously see that this is indeed the case, right? You have SCGS here and SCGS into RS here, and you have Lg into CGS here, and you have S squared. You have VGS is plus 1. This is the only I out term which has come out separately, and then you have the S squared VGS CG, the other term, right, LS term, right? Now, looking at this term, first let us look at, at resonance. At resonance, what is the condition, right? What is the condition for resonance? That this Lg plus Ls tunes out CGS, correct? In other words, omega naught squared is given by 1 by Lg plus Ls into CGS. Okay. In other words, what can we say? S squared times CGS times Lg plus Ls plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay. This is, of course, this is the magnitude thing, but if you were to write it in terms of S domain, you can say that S squared into this whole thing plus 1 is equal to 0, right? So which means what? This particular term goes to 0. Okay. So let us rewrite this equation and say Vn is given by I out into SLS plus SRS CGS divided by GM into I out minus IN1. Correct. Now what we will do is, let's write it all in terms of j omega, right? So what happens? Let's club these terms. Okay, what we are interested in is we want to know what is the coefficient of I out and what is the coefficient of IN1. Okay, so that is easy to write. So we say V in is equal to I out into, what all terms do we have? We have S Ls. Let's write it as j omega naught Ls. Okay, we are writing all this at resonance. Okay, so this equation is valid only at resonance. So at resonance, it becomes j omega naught times Ls plus j, you have Rs Cgs divided by Gm. Rs Cgs divided by Gm into omega naught, because of the S term. And what is the coefficient of IN1? IN1, it is basically J Rs Cgs omega naught divided by Gm. Okay. Now looking at this equation, you are writing, in the absence of noise. Okay. It's basically, we wrote the entire small signal model. So if you for a moment consider that there is no noise, then what happens? This term goes out of the picture. Now what do you have? Left hand side is V in, right hand side is some constant term, constant times I out. So in other words, we can say that this term can be called as the effective transconductance, right? Or rather, this the inverse of this, right? This whole thing inverse. Where is this? Yeah. This effective transconductance inverse. So in other words, we can say that I out divided by V in can be written as 1 by j omega naught Ls plus j Rs Cgs divided by Gm into omega naught. Okay. Now the modulus of this, or rather the magnitude of this effective transconductance, let's say this is what is called as the effective transconductance of this whole structure. Okay, so this can be written as what? The J terms are taken away, so you get 1 omega naught into Ls divided by Rs Cgs divided by Gm. Okay, so this can be written as what? Gm Ls plus Rs Cgs divided by Gm into omega naught 1 by. Okay, now recall that Gm Ls by Cgs is Rs, okay, for input matching, correct? This is what we saw is going to be the way in which we are going to design. So GMLS can be written as what? GMLS can be written as Rs Cgs. So this effective transconductance I out by Vn can be written as 1 divided by omega naught into 2 times Rs Cgs divided by Gm. Okay. Now we also know that omega t is what? Gm by Cgs. So this can be approximately, right? So this can be rewritten as omega t divided by 2 times omega naught into 1 by Rs. Now this is your effective transconductance of the common source LNA with the inductive degeneration. Okay, the transconductance of the transistor by itself is Gm, but because you have thrown a bunch of elements around it, the effective transconductance of this entire structure that is drawn here is given by this expression approximately as omega t by 2 times omega naught into 1 over Rs. Alright. So the effective transconductance, okay, what can you say? That this seems to be independent of even what? Independent of Gm, independent of Ls, independent of Lg, right? As long as input is matched, right? It's a very, what shall I say, a strange or a non-intuitive expression, but mathematically we are able to derive. See, certain things you can intuitively understand, but this is something that only when you do the mathematical analysis that you can see that the overall transconductance happens to be independent of even the transconductance of the transistor. Okay, all right. Now going to the noise performance, right? So let us say if we want to know what is the total, or rather, let's say the short circuit output noise current. Okay. So usually, how do we find out the noise? We set V into 0. So and then we see what is the output noise power spectral density, and then we compute the noise figure. Okay. In this case, we are dealing in terms of noise current. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to set V into 0 in which equation? Let me call this as equation number 2. In the second equation, in the second equation, okay, we are going to set V into 0, and if you set V into 0, what happens? All the output noise is because of the noise current. I mean, all the output current is because of the noise only, right? So let us see what is the short circuit output noise current. So setting V into 0 in this equation, what do we get? We will get something like, let's call it as IN out due to M1 can be written as IN1 into RS CGS divided by GM LS plus RS CGS. Okay. So all that I have done basically is to set this to 0, this goes the other side. I out is taken as IN out, the noise output current due to M1, and this term will come to the denominator, right? So you basically have, GM/LS, GM gets cancelled, so GM/LS, RS/CGS in the denominator, omega naught cancels in the numerator and denominator, and RS/CGS at the top, okay? So this is what you basically get, alright? Now let us try to simplify this expression. So again, we know that RS is given by GM/LS divided by CGS, okay? So what can we write? Let's say divide the numerator and denominator by CGS. What will you get? You will get IN1 into RS divided by GM/LS by CGS, which is nothing but RS plus RS, which is what? IN1 divided by 2. Okay. In other words, let's just say these are all the magnitude quantities. Okay. So the output noise current due to M1 is the magnitude of it is nothing but the actual magnitude. What is IN1? IN1 squared we know is 4 kT gamma GM, right? So we can say that IN out due to M1 squared can be written as this divided by 4, right? 4 kT gamma GM divided by 4, because the transfer function divided the whole square, right? So this becomes kT gamma GM. All right. So now how can we write the noise figure? We know that noise figure can be written as 1 plus the noise added by the by this particular device, which is, let's say, 4 kT gamma GM divided by the transfer function squared or the gain squared. In this case, we are not talking about voltage gain, we are talking about transconductance, because you have an input voltage and an output current. So what is the transconductance value that we calculated here? Omega t by 2 times omega naught into 1 over Rs, right? So the whole square rationalized to 4 kT Rs. This is your noise figure. So let us calculate our noise figure. So what will you get? It becomes 1 plus kT gets cancelled out. So you have gamma times GM times. Here you have Rs squared in the denominator here. So this goes to the denominator as Rs, right? Into this 4 and this 4 will get cancelled out. So what you will get is basically omega naught by omega t the whole square. Okay. So the noise figure of this common source with source degeneration LNA is given by 1 plus gamma GM Rs into omega by omega t the whole square. So let's spend some time trying to understand this expression. What is this telling us? So far, all the LNAs that we discussed, we always saw that noise figure is greater than 2, or in other words, noise figure is greater than 3 dB. But here if you see, gamma GM RS into omega by omega T the whole square. Now let us take for example, okay, let's say, okay, omega naught by omega T can also be written as F naught by Ft, right? Let's say your operation frequency is 1 gigahertz, all right, and the Ft of your device, let's say, is easily, let's say, some 100 gigahertz. I mentioned that, you can optimize the Ft to be around 150, 160 gigahertz in a technology node like 65 nanometer. Let's say, for example, we are just taking 100 gigahertz. Now, what happens? This term gamma GM RS is divided by a factor of what? 1 by 100 the whole square, right? So, which means this term becomes really small if F naught is much greater than, sorry, Ft is much greater than F naught. Okay. So, the farther you are away from Ft, the lower the noise figure. So, what is the moral of this whole story? You can get very good noise figure with this topology. Compared to all the other topologies that we have seen till now, you can get some of the best noise figures with a topology, with this particular topology, which is the common source with an inductive degeneration. Okay, and which is why for applications where you need a really low noise figure, let's say noise figure which is lower than 3 dB, this is kind of the go-to architecture. Like you basically end up, using this architecture and or rather this topology in order to get the best noise figure. Now, of course, this equation is valid under these two conditions. One is it is at resonance, okay, and input is matched. All right. And the beauty of this architecture is that the only noise contributor so far is the device only, because all the other things are taken to be ideal. In practice, what happens is this LG will also have some noise, right? So let me write it here. Okay, let's say this is the topology that we have talked about, right? Now this LG will obviously have a certain Q factor, and this Q factor will contribute to a series resistance, and that will of course directly add to the noise figure. Okay, so if you were to do the full analysis including this, you can obviously say that RG directly contributes to noise figure, which means what? You need to minimize RG as much as possible. Okay. So as I mentioned before, getting very high Q inductors on chip is very difficult. So you have to go for off chip LG. Okay. Off chip LG will usually have very good Q, which means that RG is extremely low. Okay. So for LNAs which are working, let's say the lower gigahertz range, less than 5 gigahertz, you can just basically put an off-chip LG and get away with it. Okay, and that is sometimes done, but many times what happens is that in many products you will see this LG being put off chip. Typically people don't like to do that because it increases your bill of materials. Okay, for example, let's say you are designing an LNA for, let's say, cellular communication. You want everything to be on chip. You want to, let's say you are, let's say an engineer in Samsung or Qualcomm or Huawei or MediaTek, designing these transceivers. You want to sell a single chip solution to your customers, right? But if you say, okay, you can use my chip, but also you need to use, some 5 different inductors all around it, that increases the bill of materials of your entire design. And suppose your competitor comes up with a design which doesn't have this external inductor, obviously, your competitor's chip would be preferred. But usually there is a certain, I mean, you do end up with at least one or two off-chip components. People try their level best to see if they can avoid all these off-chip components as much as possible, but they're not always successful. Okay, so so you end up with some LG. Same way, even your LS will also have some. Let me not call it as RS. Let me call it as RLS. Okay, something like that. Okay, so all these things will definitely come into the picture, and it all depends. Like, if you are doing, if your chip has got, because modern cellular communication, earlier, let's say some 10 years back, if you are doing an RF transceiver design, you had only 2G or 2.5G, right? Or maybe 4G, 3G was just trying to pick up. So you just had one LNA for your GSM, okay, and that will work for your edge also, right? So you can afford to put an external inductor like this and work with it. But for modern transceiver design with 4G and carrier aggregation and MIMO being involved, and now with 5G with massive MIMO and things like that, you have multiple receivers. Okay, so let's say you will have these transceivers having some 10 to 20 receive chains, or 10 to 20, or at least around 10 to 15 LNAs. Okay, then in that case you can have so many inductors. So as the requirements keep evolving with the with the advance of technology, some of these things become obsolete, some of these things can be used. For example, if you are doing some design and it's a standalone design for only one frequency, you can use an external LG and get away with it. But otherwise, people use these other things. And as I mentioned, especially for cellular communication, if you are targeting, let's say if your company is working for 4G or 5G chipsets, and you have like 10 LNAs, you don't want to have so many inductors, on your chip. It will just eat up so much of your area. Okay, so which is why people are willing to even compromise on noise figure and go with some of these other LNA topologies that we saw earlier. That is like you have a feedback LNA, resistive feedback, or inverter with a self-biased inverter with the feedback resistor and capacitor. All kinds of things people try, so that you can keep the area to a minimum, avoid inductors as much as possible, right? And do that. So it all varies on the requirement that you have. All right. But in this topology, if you look at this expression, let me write it once again. Noise figure is 1 plus, let's say, GM RS gamma omega naught by omega t, the whole squared. So another thing that we learn from this equation is maximize Ft, right? So if you can maximize the gap between F0 and Ft, you are going to improve your noise figure. Okay, so which is why for RF design, it is always good to go to a lower technology node. People like to go to a lower technology node where you can have better FTs, and you will be able to maximize your noise figure even better. Okay, all right. So one more thing that we learned here is you have this ratio GM by omega t. Okay, so let us kind of expand this. So this becomes GM divided by what is omega t? GM. Okay, this is GM RS by omega t, right? This is GM by CGS, and RS is given by GM LS by CGS, right? So anyway, you kind of come back to the same thing. So what you want to do is you want to keep, if you keep this LS the same, then you have to maintain this ratio, right? If you want to, let's say, let's just stay with GM by omega t ratio. So if you want to maintain this ratio, right? And if you want to reduce GM and at the same time you want to reduce CGS, right? So if you do that, this is GM by CGS. So if this is constant, right? If you want to do that, then what happens is you will have to increase your LG corresponding. Okay, so you can reduce GM by reducing current or reducing the width. Okay, reducing current by reducing width. Now CGS will reduce, GM will reduce, GM by omega t will kind of remain constant, right? Then what will happen is you can this term can be written as CGS because this is GM by CGS, right? So if you can reduce this term, reduce CGS and keep GM by omega t constant or GM by CGS constant, okay, you can theoretically think of improving your noise figure, or rather noise figure reduces, right? Now this is limited by, so what happens is now CGS is reduced. Now what is omega naught squared? It is 1 by Ls plus Lg into CGS, right? So if CGS reduces and Ls is kept constant, now your Lg has to increase in order to resonate at the same thing. Okay, so which means that if you keep increasing Lg, if you keep reducing the size of the transistor, keep reducing the size of keep reducing CGS and keep increasing Lg, your noise figure is bound to improve. Okay, so which is why usually the noise figure is limited by the max Lg that is possible. Okay, and even if you look at the design procedure, okay, you want to make sure you kind of start off with a very high value of Lg so that you can reduce the dimension of your transistor. Okay, and by doing that you are even improving your noise figure. Okay, so so this is another thing. So this is what we learned from this one. You reduce CGS, you reduce noise figure, and if you reduce CGS, correspondingly you have to increase Lg. So the best thing is to maximize Lg as possible. So usually you reach a limiting value, okay, where you can't go beyond a certain thing, and if you, as Lg increases, what happens is the RLg also will increase, okay, for a constant Q, right? So which means that the noise due to Lg starts dominating. Okay, so there is a trade-off there. So you have to draw the line at a certain point. Okay. Now let us look at one more aspect. Okay, let me redraw this circuit. This can be equivalently, drawn as what? Ls plus Lg, CGS, or rather, let me kind of draw it like this, RS. Correct. So this is a series RLC circuit, right? Now what can you tell about the voltage across this CGS at resonance? Is there something special that happens? Come on guys, you can just refresh your memory about series RLC circuits. Okay, let's say you give a certain V in, what can you say about the voltage across CGS?
It would be very high.
By what factor?
Q.
Q times, right? So this
It
will be
depends on
Q
Q.
times V in at resonance. Okay. So what are we saying? The input that is fed at this point, the voltage across the gate to source voltage happens to be Q times the input here. Okay. Which means what? You are getting a free voltage amplification, right? Without the reason I say free is because you're not spending any additional current or spending additional power in order to get this amplification. Just because of these passive elements, you're getting an amplification. I mean, if we can call it as voltage amplification by a factor of Q. Okay. Of course, this will reduce your IIP3 or your 1 dB compression point and so on. But then what you're getting is you're having additional voltage swing at the input, which obviously is going to be good from a noise perspective, right? Because the input voltage to your transistor itself is amplified. So the signal to noise ratio, or in other words, that is why this is one of the reasons which contributes to your very good noise figure. Okay. Now let's look at one more aspect. So far we have looked at only the input side, right? What about the output side? What about the stuff that is going to sit on top of this? Okay. Now obviously we know that this is going to have a certain output impedance, or let me just call it as Z out, which is usually low pass in nature. Correct. So this obviously needs to get tuned out. So you have to use a drain inductor. What is the job of this drain inductor? To tune out the cap at V out. Okay. Now the capacitance at V out is due to the parasitic capacitance of, let's say, transistor M1 and the parasitic capacitance of the next stage. Okay. Now, if you recall our discussion which we had a few lectures back, we said that when you have a common source with the inductive load, because of the CGD, right, the gate to drain capacitance, there is a possibility of the input impedance becoming negative, right? Or there is a possibility of the real part of Zn going less than 0. Okay, and that will definitely contribute to instability. So we have to somehow prevent that. So one of the neat techniques that is used is basically to say, let's try cascoding. Okay, just like how we did it for the common gate LNA. What we will do is, this is M1, this is M2, and this is usually connected to VDD, and W by L of 2 is usually taken to be W by L of 1. As we saw earlier, the device dimensions of this cascoding transistor really doesn't impact your performance much. Okay, and now your LD is supposed to tune out the net capacitance CL here. Okay, and now what happens is this M2 transistor is basically going to kind of shield your actual input transistor M1. So let us see how that is happening. So we can model this capacitor LD as something with a parallel resistance, let's say R. Let me just call it as RD. Okay, this is VDD. All right. Now, if you look at the expression that we wrote earlier, the impedance seen here, Rx, okay, Rx can be written as RD plus R02 divided by 1 plus Gm2 R0 2. Okay. So at resonance, when LD and CL resonate out each other, the impedance seen at this node X becomes purely resistive. Okay. Now we know that for a resistive impedance, I mean, if you have a transistor which has a load impedance of a load resistor, then we know that it is going to be unconditionally stable. Okay. So this is how this M2 transistor is going to kind of shield your bottom transistor or your main transconductor, and you can kind of have a stable, you can basically have a stable LNA. Okay. Now the other thing is, obviously we'll say that the noise of M2 will also come into picture, but noise of M2 becomes significant only when the impedance at this node, so it will have a certain parasitic capacitance Cx. Okay. So and the net impedance which is seen there is 2 times R0 1. Okay. So when 1 over Gm2 becomes comparable to 1 by 2 times R0 1 Cx, okay, into omega Cx. So that is when the noise of M2 starts becoming prominent. Okay. So till then it really doesn't affect much. Typically the noise contribution of M2 is lesser than M1. Alright. Okay. So a typical LNA is going to basically look like this. So let us actually start to put together this entire LNA. Okay. Let's have a practically realizable LNA. Right. This RD is basically due to the Q of the inductor. Let's say this is M2. This is our total CL, V out, M2. This is connected to the supply voltage. This is our M1, ELS, right? Now this is our LG. Now let's say you have an antenna, you have to AC couple this signal, right? And now you have to feed in the DC bias. Now how can you feed in the DC bias? The same way like how we talked about last time. You have a current source, let's say this is VDD, some reference current source. Okay. You have a diode connected transistor. You put a capacitor here to make sure that this is an AC ground, and you have a large resistor, let's call it RB. Okay. And this large resistor is basically going to bias your transistor. Okay. So this node is ground. All right. So M1, let me call this as M1B, which is a scaled version of this transistor M1. So for example, if you want 1 milliamp of current to flow through M1, the current IREF can be some 100 microamps or even lower. And appropriately, W of 1B will be equal to W of 1, divided by the ratio. Okay. So into, let's say, IREF divided by I1. Okay. So this is how you will size the devices. So this is the complete LNA. Okay. Now how can you start designing? Let's quickly go through the design procedure. Okay. So what are the things that you know? You know the F0 at which your LNA needs to work at, right? And you also know, of course, you know the topology, right? And you also decide a certain LS, because if you have too many unknowns, it becomes very difficult. And you also decide a certain LG, okay? And then you also know what is your pad capacitance. Now, what are the things that are, these are all the knowns. Okay. What are the governing equations? One is omega naught squared is nothing but 1 by LS plus LG into CGS plus CPAD. Okay, the pad capacitance. So here let me also draw the pad. So the pad can be basically here, right? and the LG is usually put off chip. Okay. Now sometimes the LS can also be off chip, but it depends. Okay. So this is your omega naught squared. Another thing is RS equation, which I wrote the expression and I wanted you to derive, which is basically CGS 1 divided by CGS 1 plus CPAD. This is a scaling factor into GMLS divided by CGS, right? So this is another equation. So you know some of the things you know, the other things you'll have to look at. So basically you can look at the plots for FT versus VGS for some arbitrary omega naught and GM versus VGS for the same omega naught, right? And scale omega naught, sorry, not omega naught, it is W naught, right? I'm sorry, and scale W to get the FT and GM required. Okay. So there is an example in the textbook. I would like you to go through that in detail. So this is just one way of doing these things, and please go through this thing. Okay, and you will get better clarity. And I will give you an assignment very soon where you will have to design either a common gate LNA or a common source with a source degeneration LNA. All right. So any doubts, any questions so far? So as I mentioned, please don't get into the square law equations. Look at the charts. Okay. Look at FT versus VGS chart for some arbitrary W naught and GM versus VGS. Both these charts we looked at in previous lecture, and you will get a certain FT and you will require a certain FT. In fact, this can be written as what? Omega T times LS, right? So having fixed everything, you will need to find out what is the omega T required, right? And from there you can go back and look at what is the CGS. All right. So with this, I'll conclude today's class. And please go through the design example which is there. This is just one way of designing. This is not the way of designing. There are so many different ways in which you can design it. This is just one way. Okay. Okay. And just a comparison, you will see that this is also another example problem in the textbook, but go through it please. That you will see that the common gate LNA has a broadband input match versus a common source with inductive degen. Okay. So the proof for this is given in the book. I would like you to go through it. It's a very simple thing. Okay. So you should be able to understand why that is happening. All right. So let me just give it as an assignment. The proof for this particular thing. Okay. All right. So with this, we'll conclude today's class. Tomorrow's class, we will start off with what is called as noise cancelling LNAs. Okay. Any doubts? Any questions? All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.